Bandai Namco has announced that they'll be making a movie adaptation of Elden Ring. Luckily, it doesn't look like it'll be too bad, as the director attached to the movie is Ex Machina's director, Alex Garland. He's also the writer for 28 Days Later, Enslaved Odyssey, and the story supervisor for DMC Devil May Cry. He is also very obsessed with Elden Ring.
There are many fans who are cautiously optimistic since the story for Elden Ring is very intangible. But many think that maybe it'll be about an NPC? We don't know.
You think they'll attach George R.R. Martin to the movie?
That would make sense. I don't know that he could walk away from his typewriter to do so.
Still not Bloodborne though. Imagine if I died right there. Whoa! What the fuck? But welcome to Necro News, the show where we cover the hottest gaming news from the last week. This week we'll be covering Nikki with an E, and their situation in China, the Stalker remaster misinformation, Warhammer Skulls, and more.
So like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's just jump right into it.
The week before last, Cheeky Breaky Simulator aka Stalker got a massive update that remastered the original 3 games. But it didn't end there. They also removed the entire Russian voice acting track, which isn't that surprising because... But the remaster didn't just remove that, it censored many parts of the game.
Some of the censored material was the removal of the CNPP sign, changing the acronym of the ruble from RU to SR, stuff like that. There weren't just censorship issues though, the game was much more blurry as a result of the poorly remastered textures. There were a lot more bugs that far exceeded the bugs that were present in the already Euro-janky games, and they plastered the advertisement for the Stalker 2 game in the main menu.
And guess what happened next? We were gonna make a review bomb joke with a nuke falling, but then we reconsidered it considering the actual situation. However, initially, when you think of like a nuke falling on Ukraine or something, you think Chernobyl, right? Not the current war. So that's why, not because we were joking about the current war. So anyway, people review bombed the heck out of the game.
Steam users took to the Steam store and completely destroyed the remaster's review score, especially since the original 3 games are no longer searchable on the Steam store, though they are still there. You just need a direct link to get to them. Luckily, however, the devs have listened and put out a notice stating that they'll fix the missing geometry on several levels, as well as some other bugs.
It's nice that they listened, but they haven't addressed anything in regards to the audio or bad textures, but this is a good first step. We'll link the original trilogy down below though, because you know, why not? You guys want to know what else got review bombed?
Is it Nikki?
With an I, yes. I can now understand why people hate Randy Pitchford. Let me explain. Last week, Randy took to Twitter to reply to the backlash over Borderlands 4 costing $80, because $80 for any game is, you know, reasonable. Anyway, his response to this was A, not his call, and B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen.
The sentiment that you're feeling right now is pretty much the same that everyone had. Of course, Randy, being Randy, took to a Q&A on May 21st where he basically apologized for his insensitive and absolutely moronic take before giving his final answer of
Really now? I'll tell you the truth. I don't know. And that is the truth. I'll hit it. I'll hit it straight on. And it's an interesting time, right? We've got...
Aside from Randy's stupid comment, an equally stupid apology, Take-Two Interactive had recently created some concerning changes to the EULA in every Borderlands game. Essentially, the EULA stated that players were unable to use a mod manager, which is very similar to the sections in the GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2's EULA. So people naturally assumed that they just updated their EULA to what GTA 6's will be.
But as people who already own Borderlands were being forced to update to a new EULA that they originally did not agree to, okay, now it was appropriate. Warhammer Skulls, or the Warhammer Direct, just happened the other day, which usually marks the beginning of the endless E3. We'll work on getting that schedule out for you this week. No clue when it'll happen, but keep an eye out for it. And as Ellie has the most passing of interests in Warhammer 40k, we're just going to briefly go over the games that were announced.
They do it for him. The first Space Marine game was announced to get a remastered version and will be available on June 10th. Owlcat, the creator of Warhammer 40k, Rogue Trader, which is getting a free update with a new character and a new 15-hour expansion, has announced that he'll be creating a CPRG version of Warhammer 40k's Dark Heresy.
For my own personal choice, a remaster of the first Dawn of War game, plus all of its expansions, was announced, as well as a sequel to the boomer shooter Bolt Gun 2, and a Typing of the Dead spin-off, Word of Vengeance. Space Marine 2 is getting its Siege mode, and finally, 40k Mechanicus 2 had a gameplay reveal where it was shown that you could play as Necrons.
Necrons are the best faction, okay? You can't tell me otherwise. But you can tell me your opinions about what you look forward to. The story about AI Darth Vader in Fortnite that we talked about last week went a bit further than expected. To give you guys some context for those of you who don't know, as we haven't really talked about it, is that there's been an ongoing industry strike by SAG-AFTRA since around July of last year. Most of the strike has been around the usage of AI in voice acting, as opposed to hiring actual actors. There's a bit more to it than that, but we'll stick to the more important details for now.
So, the most important part is that the strike has hit a lot of companies, like Hoyoverse, who have continued to not care at all. But let's go back to Fortnite, where the union has filed an unfair labor practice claim against Llama Productions, which is a company owned by Epic for voice work. They released a statement that is very long. We celebrate the right of our members and their estates to control
this
the
is
use of
boring.
digital replicas
And welcome the use of new technologies to allow new generations to share in the enjoyment of those legacies and renowned roles. However, we must protect our right to bargain terms and conditions around uses of voice.
This is fucking stupid.
To clarify how ridiculous this claim is, they're saying that the usage of AI voice for Darth Vader would violate any agreements with SAG-AFTRA actors who sign on to voice Darth Vader, which is, for lack of a better term, kinda dumb, as the lines of the AI voices say don't actually replace any actual voice lines to our knowledge. And also, were they just gonna hire someone to impersonate Darth Vader 24/7 while kids ask them about Hak-Tua and how to raise Padme?
Say it again. Hak-Tua.
Nikki had its issues, and now Nikke has its own issues. Also, a huge thank you to Morgan from the Discord, who on his birthday presented us with all of this info. You're a true champ, man.
Thank you, and once again, happy belated birthday, Morgan.
If you don't know what Goddess of Victory Nikki is, it's a game that has hot chicks that shoot guns. Sure, some people say that it has a good story. This is very touching.
It's very touching when I've known him for all but like 10 minutes.
Oh.
Good shot, fade to black.
But we're not convinced.
Though neither of us are really the target demographic for the game, we do enjoy bits of it. Booster likes the gameplay and I like some of the character designs, which is a good segue into the story as the Chinese servers just got released, and with it a lot of changes. Some of them were expected, such as censoring some of the clothes for the Nikkis, others just didn't make that much sense.
So for everyone else, starting up Nikki takes like 5 minutes. The login times for the games are unbearably long, and is one of the reasons why I personally stopped playing for months at a time. But for China, login times are like less than 5 seconds. That's far from the only change.
Some of these changes include resetting characters for free, buying characters from the shops, molds, which are collectible items that give you a chance to get a super rare Nikki, have been reworked for a much more rewarding outcome, multiple unit upgrades such as buffs and leveling conveniences, and in general, the response has been pretty much this.
With everyone clamoring over the fact that the Chinese version is far better than the global version for a lot of reasons, ShiftUp put up a lengthy statement explaining that they're wanting to reduce the load times on global by at least 141 seconds and introduce a bunch of new features to the game. But they hope the differences between the servers will enrich each other. Not a good thing when the Chinese servers got the quality of life improvements, better load times, and extra outfits that global players do not have.
However, the most pressing concern, at least from what we've seen, is how molds are handled in the Chinese server. But after doing some research on the topic and finding this blah blah review of the Chinese Nikki, it looks like there's been a bit of misinformation. First is that the golden molds have the exact same chance to get an SSR Nikki as every other version, except that when you fail to get an SSR, China's pity system kicks in, meaning that instead of failing however many times you need to in the regular version of Nikki, you only need to fail 5 times for the pity system to give you an SSR. As for the various time-gating mechanics being removed or improved, it could be due to the Chinese law that passed back in 2021, limiting minors to only 3 hours of video games a week in order to combat gaming addiction.
As a completely unimportant bastard on the internet who doesn't even like Nikki, I don't think that the Chinese server is any better or worse than the global version. For every good thing that the Chinese server has, like the animated frames and having better titles and buying characters, they also have a lot of bad things, like a completely butchered storyline and whatever the hell this is.
Back to the second most important topic of Nikke. Let's all be honest with ourselves. Rappy and Denise do look way better in the censored version. I'm just saying. But tell us what you think about the censored versions.
This week's Buried Alive Banger, a segment where we cover games that our community doesn't think has had enough attention, is called Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. No, I have not played it, but it's Oblivion before Oblivion was Oblivion. So I'm down for it. Plus King Arthur.
I need to save this realm. This is my vow.
And here are the games coming out this week. We've got the new Elden Ring DLC, standalone game thing, whatever it is.
And here's the schedule for this week. I'll be playing Pistol Show, and then on Wednesday and Thursday we'll be playing Elden Ring. Not sure if we're doing anything on Sunday yet.
And that's it for this week's Necro News. As always, thank you for watching, and if you made it all the way to the end, post a crown for Elden Ring.
Oh, I was gonna say a robot for Nikki.
Post either. Either works.
And as always, a very special thank you to our channel members. We really do appreciate you guys. If you'd like to show even more support for the channel, becoming a member gives you access to bonus content like bloopers, sneak peek, other cool stuff. It's fun.
But anyway, until next time, goodbye.